On the way in, I read in the newspaper, there was a quote of Lao Tse that said, mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. And we're going to go into that very deeply and experientially. This is the spiritual empowerment session. So we're all going to experience what this is. We're going to begin doing a countdown, which I normally do once I'm with people, or everyone here is a spiritual teacher, and in different ways, Suzette, in every way. And so I'm going to count back from 100 to 90, at which point we're all going to be in a state of quietude, peace, remembrance of all the deep spiritual experiences we've had, the illumination we might have had when we were a child, 13 or 15, or after a beautiful marriage, where everything was just right with the world. Maybe we had a battery, a backup, a person with us, good career like my friends here, helping people all the time, or teaching. But what we're talking about, mastering yourself, is, and we'll be there at 90, the experience of it, and then we'll continue, is so utterly sublime, and it's away from everything. All the causes, all the should-be's and would-be's, and all the broken marriages and promises. There is a state of, we call it spiritual illumination, and that's true power. And we'll go very deeply into that today and experience what it means for us, for now and the future, for all people, for every circumstance and situation, for every moment. There's an answer, and it's spiritual, because there is a God. We're in a very quiet state at 90. Close your eyes if you wish. Relax your shoulders. Be aware of the breathing. Let everything go slack. Just be deeply conscious of the depths of your abdomen. Do the abdominal walls expand and release with inhalation and exhalation. Just being aware of the abdominal walls moving in and out with the breathing, and keeping your mind basically the only one of two techniques you'll ever need to know in meditation. This is what Bodhidharma did. It's what Zen meditation is. You simply allow all your sensorial fields to fall deep in the base of your abdomen. You're simply out of your mind after a few moments or minutes. You practice this for a while, or if you're already spiritual like everyone in this room is now, you'll just be there. And all of a sudden there's a peace and a calm and a surety, and you're out of your mind. And the locking mechanism with that, like Greg would teach, or Carlos, would be that, be aware of, a Zen monk would be aware of 18 inches in the floor in front of him. And the nun and the monk would be just exteriorize your concentration, if that's a word. And you place it like what people do with a candle or a holy picture. You just look at for a few moments at a picture of a lost love, and you're just taken away. And this is a lost love times infinity and eternity. But it doesn't take away from the lost love, because they're always with you. And once you wake up to this state of illumination that we'll be discussing and experiencing shortly, you'll feel all the lost love. Your grandmoms, their grandmoms, and they'll be feeling their grandmoms. Because they're all here always. You always have a picture of your grandma when you were a young kid and so forth. And these things never change, but they're illusory. The love's not illusory. The adoration, those who cared for you, and that you appreciate that. There's no lost cause there. That's forever. So we jump into the state of illumination that we'll discuss and experience today. You'll feel all the lost cause, and you'll see all the different island continents you've lived upon in this life, spiritually speaking. It's a wonderful thing to be alive to yourself. And it will simply deaden entirely all the effects this world and the dark force behind it have had in your whole life. And that's where we're going. That's why people depossessions and so forth, or we put blood in Christ or something. So it's not just meditation. There is a God. We need something to combat evil, which is behind the whole projection. So we'll be discussing that as we exteriorize our concentration. We're doing it internally. We do not have to do any of these methods because everyone in here has a natural spiritual presence and essence that they're aware of. And we're going to go right to the center of that, to the center mass of it, where we understand everything. We overcome perception we have of the world that the world causes us to have. Its original innocence, absolutely not original sin. There is no sin in the old scripture. Sin simply meant separation from God, no more, no less. That was the spiritual text. If you read it in that sense and move through anything that doesn't pertain to that, then you'll gather the same sense you get from Lao Tzu, or your grandpa. Just a pure, quiet, decent, permanent love and friendship. Let's go from 100 to 90, at which point we'll be completely quiet and aware of all the beautiful spiritual experiences we've had from birth to this present. Thank you. We're there at night. Peace at night, transcendent of our body and mind and our emotions. The wonderful place. It's the real you. 97. Enjoying your body, relax, at ease, breathing, more rhythmic, deeper. Little spaces between our heartbeats. Remember the beautiful spiritual experiences, visitations we've had many different points of our life. For the people in this room, it's been daily. Thank you. We're not our body. We are not our problems or the solution to our problems. We're made of something transcendent, transcendent of all perception. Each of us maintains this diamond hard clarity within us. And the world's beaten us about the brow and body all of our life, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. It's like in that great movie, The Green Mile, with one of the stars, it was like a godlike human being, said it kills you all day, boss. It kills you with your own, you have to make your own decisions between two things all day. You say you're born here and there is no physical world, according to all the Eastern philosophies and so forth. And so you're born, even the Bible said, in the beginning, and it doesn't say in the beginning. What I'm saying, the Bible, everything's been changed from the dictator who was at the year 200 in Scripture. I went on in this forever, but it says in a beginning, according to an Aramaic scholar, that's what they would say. So it doesn't say in the beginning. Things get changed around to give different religions, organizations that help people power, and the only thing that's worthy of our attention as anyone who's been deeply ensconced in prayer all their life, talk to the monks, the nuns, the holy ones, the true priests and so forth, they're aware of a higher order. They've stepped apart from the world entirely and forever and completely. And there's something eternal and perfect and real and true, kind and decent, erudite, powerful, destructive, and yet so humble with us. The point being, of everything in this world that we need to do alone, the one thing more than everything else is to approach our Father in heaven, God. And when we do that, and we wipe off the dross or shake it off of this world, through deconditioning ourselves, all these different methods, meditation, reflection, contemplation, whatever it is. And we get back to our original innocence. And then something happens. It always happens. It always has. It always will. We're just simply to enforce that moment for all of us. Sooner than later. Why? Because every injured person, animal, every injured mind and heart and soul is injured because of the same cause, this thing called Mephistopheles, Satan, trickster. And there is such a being, but once you're in this deep, deep place, you don't react to it anymore. So you can decondition yourself, you can go to a church, you can do psychotherapy, you get rid of all your problems, but the only problem that's ever been, and this is the secret, is the world does not exist. And that's why the people of King James Bible, my favorite artwork in the world, the writer, the magnificence of it. But still they were talking about King James, the main king at the time, but the little off point here, the point is, I know certain people do forms of psychotherapy or spiritual practice, and they're going to make you a better person. You can handle it to do that. But the thing is to get to the sense of Maya they have in the Orient, in India, where I lived for a time. Maya meaning the illusion. Everyone who's deeply reflective and spiritual, I've talked about my friends in Tibet, they would live in these little enclosures for the rest of their life. Many lived through many, many years there, and people don't get it. They think they're crazy people up in the mountains because I've met them. They're not crazy. But everyone in the world who thinks the world is real, then your adoration goes to this dark force. I'm making this very clear, not judging, not criticizing anyone. I'm saying for us as meditative beings, we release ourselves from all the bondage simply by not reacting to it. So in the beginning, maybe you're touched by a great master or something, and you feel, listen, the master is always gone, but all of our circumstances different. And It doesn't matter who we adore or care for or pray to, or the adoration is always for that omnipresent, invisible purity. Infinite purity that we call God. There is such a being. That's why I talked about earlier, depossession. So we're going to depossess this whole world in the very near future. It doesn't matter about anyone thinks or cares or believes. And the whole secret is to not believe that the world exists. So in your reflective times, when you fall in love, when you're holding a child's hand, that innocence takes you back. And there's great wisdom, great kindness, great warmth and decency. And that's forever. The point being that when we quiet ourselves truth in our own perception through these different methods, or simply on your knee in prayer, or simply think of your mom who might have passed. And I think of my mom, and everything that I am disappeared. It's just adoration, honor, but it's a quiet thing. Stardust. Because we're all thrown from stardust. That's what we are. Spiritual stardust. When I go with my friends in the Orient, they go, he's a God man. They know the Dalai Lama, they don't look at him as a man. They look at him as a radiance because they've been involved very deeply in this practice of meditation, of these different spiritual practices where they feel transcendent of their body and of their life. So if you see the Dalai Lama, it's just a presence. When I was in temple in Dharamsala, it was always over the golden presence. Like my different friends, Baba Baby, or we ran something called World Conference on Yoga, and had many different yogis from here, 69, 70 years ago. So different, very holy people. And there was always a trickster on every neighbor in India. There was a guru in every street. So. And some of them were true gurus, and beautiful and wonderful. And the real ones, like my friend Baba Baby, no one knew he was that, because he acted like a normal person, never put up a sign or anything. Just, people would come to him here and there, and he would bless them, but in a very natural, normal, human way, hold their hand. And the point is, we're all gurus and teachers. So as soon as we feel this thing, we go home today, tonight, tomorrow, and look for the person that God will send. I call the teachers the angels. Will send to us, and we'll practice the presence. We will see how to lift that one. And the more we do that, the more it will help us. As Greg and Carlos and Sensei Suzette here know that when you teach, that's when you know what you know, what you know, what you know. And if you don't know anything, so you begin to teach. Share it, to give it, to understand how to express it, because it is you. Whether it's spiritual, any art form whatsoever. We are a divine project. We are a divine presence. And we let go of our faith in the world whatsoever. Doors will open every day, all day. And it won't be easy. But it will be a wonderful thrill to be able to help, to teach, to know that there actually is a God. I'm not saying this to judge religion, but it's not a religious God, it's the actual God. And we die on our feet before God. And knowing this will end all the problems, all the hunger, all the fear, all the trepidation whatsoever. So although we're arguing in this room as of God, I would consider them, you, my friends, because we're aware of God and with us, and we're all teachers and live with us. But once we take that last final step in our perception, and then beyond that, we can't ever can be God. Like I look at Suzette here, Medicine John, and they're godly beings. They know what I'm saying. And they'll never say that, and they'll never think it, and they never thought it, and they never feel it. And that's why they're it. But then once you're there, you can't be here anymore. You must help. You must be here. And then at that moment, you're aware of why you're so lonely. You love everyone. You feel they're all here all the time. All of our friends and loved ones and teachers. It's different dimensions. They break up and fall apart. Like I say, like stardust. They're here to communicate. All of a sudden, you can do something very real in the world. But at that moment where we know we're not here, and then we'll actually, I don't have the words to actually see God in a new light, with overlumen. It's like seeing God's subconscious, God's actual mind. You'll feel this driving a car and helping it up in the hills one day, or holding your child's hand, or one of your students, and you'll know what I'm saying. This world is Maya. The Buddha said, you'll visit the house of your illusion no more. He said to think of the world as a bubble of a stream or a flash of light. You know, we're up on the hillside, up here, before this big fire, there was a lightning strike. It was so huge. In the bedroom, I ran out the door, opened up on my landing, looked up at the hills, and you feel like you do before a lightning strike. Feel the air suck down. There's an openness and emptiness, and then, whoa, you know, and then after that, all is well. There is a God. We are each God's reflection. In conscious experience, in our consciousness, we'll feel lighter than ever, softer than early morning light. And tomorrow, at first light in the morning, when we step out in the early dawn, we'll know Him, the only God. And we'll be assured that we are His only friend, best friend, His closest. And we all feel that together. We all feel it individually together. There are no words. There is no place. There is no time. There are no causes. You don't have to fight anything in this world when you get this quiet. You overcome the world. In Scripture, Jesus said, he that overcometh the world is worthy of me. And he said the opposite for those that are opposite. Another place he said that if the light of the eye be dark, the whole body is filled with darkness. In other words, if you believe for a hairline in your consciousness that the world is real, then your whole body is filled with darkness. You're not alone when you don't understand what it is. You say, but if the eye be light, then the whole body is filled with light. In other words, if you know what we just said, it's called nirvikalpa samadhi, the vision of God, beatific vision, where it all stops and you're not here, and you know you never were, and no one ever was. The world doesn't exist. It is a demonic illusion. So you feel the enormous infinite power of love. And it's a lovescape, a sunscape. It's always, for many of this room, we feel it every day. I'm the biggest nobody in the world. I was a little kid from Philly. I've always felt it 24 hours a day. And Baba Baby or Lamas or different friends I know. Master Suzette, there are people that are just illuminated. You can't even explain it. They're not here and they're nobody, and their lives rarely work around people. Because all of us have been waiting for this hour, this time, today, this holy evening. There is a God. We are a light of seven. or the cause of what may yet be, or the cause of what will be. All we have to do is give up all of our fear, even our intentions, wants or needs, for love, or kindness, or affection. Give it all up. And all of your old loves, or your family members, and you'll be able to read everyone's heart and soul. My dad was a homicide detective, so he was tough as nails, and as soon as after he left, we always loved each other, always respected and cared about that. And when he left, he was the only being that he wanted to be, but could never be, because he never went to school, never educated, and yet became a very formidable police lieutenant in charge of intelligence in Philadelphia. He did every bodyguard, every female off the plane with famous people and all. And so he lived a very rough life, but it wasn't what he wanted, but it's all he knew from growing up in the Depression and so forth. So I'm saying, we don't know who or what people are under the circumstances of the world. And as long as you believe the world has an iota of reality, then there will be tragedy, there will be murders, and every untimely end. So please, be very serious about our practice, about remembering who we are and what we are. We do not have to take it anymore. There is a God, and the power of it, the emanation of it, is so subtle. And some people know us when we walk into a room and it's lit up, but very few do, and that doesn't matter. Because anyone in the room who doesn't know the world and the room are not. They're not of us. And it's okay. And yet we're going to live up and out and beyond. That's our destiny. Street cop for 30 years, whole family full of Marines, football players, spent his whole life protecting kids on the streets, getting them out of trouble, going to all the schools every day, and preaching the word, making sure everyone matures, there are no bullies on the streets. Partner Tim, the same thing. Greg teaches people protect themselves, care, to love. You make sure all the students go to school and become an A student, otherwise you can't train them. So I wish you look at the letters and notes of people that come in day after day and just thank him for making them straight in their life, their lifetime. So people think he's a tough guy, make you do chemicals and whatever it is, all that. He just wants to improve people's lives. What I'm saying, there are many ways to teach. Many ways to inspire. To fight the bad people. Like Ingrid, my hero, does. She's afraid of no one on the street level and intellectual level, and presents that case very well in the middle of the angry streets. We have a different way of doing this, and eventually piercing through the night into the eternal depth of understanding, of wisdom, kindness, truth. Because we know there is a God. There is a law. And it says in the scripture, to love the Lord thy God with all your heart, and all your mind, and all your soul. It's not, you see people in the pulpit or even in the synagogue, it's like they're demanding, God's demanding you have to know. It's love the Lord your God with all your heart, and all your mind, and all your soul. It's a spiritual text, if you know that. And the people use it in another sense to enrich themselves, make themselves feel strong. It's not emotional, it's spiritual, it's quiet. There's no one to fight but your mind. And when you stop through this practice of meditation, believing that anything is solid, and you're up on the hill, air is sucked out of the belly, and that's lightning strike from beyond the moon appears before you. Feel that. There's nothing wrong with us. We're born here together at this time for a reason. And there is no time. And there are no reasons. We're just God. So overcoming others is a strength. Overcoming ourselves reveals our soul. On behalf of all the spiritual people in the world, I can say that this beauty, this sense, this feeling, this emotion is so subtle from being part of eternity. And we learn all kinds of tricks. We have to be very erudite. We have to be able to communicate with everyone in every kind of circumstance, but we're not here. And even when we know God, God's not here. So infinitely subtle and simple and kind. God is self-effacing. We can contain Him in our perception. And further than that, in God's mind, we are not. He's a very nice person. So we're to walk away from all the madness, and it's in our perception of our identity, what we are. The Dhammapada, I was with my friend Dr. Shaw, who was the world's best calligrapher at the time, but he was the dean of Booth College. He apparently the most prolific writer in human history. My buddy Rob told me. If you looked him up, I never looked things up. I just spent time with him, helped him do what he did. He was my neighbor in Philadelphia. With Avery Wilkinson, Colonel Fisher's daughter, and we got the mountaintop. And the point was, people like this exist. They're so pure. I never felt all the time I spent with Dr. Shaw his illumination because he wasn't there. He never stopped. He was working all day, teaching. He was in charge of the United Nations orphans relief thing in India, whatever, everything. He never stopped. And you never know, you never feel, or I've had many friends that have this illumination experience. Like Dr. John Buxton in Los Angeles. They're just, you can feel it from them, and some people are so enlightened that they're not even here. My friend Frida Vedi, Baba Vedi's wife, she was an illumined nun who was in that place. They're so lit from within that they're not here. All they can do is help others, and you don't sense from them their illumination because they're so transcendent. It's making sense. We're talking about spiritual powers and embodiments of everyone's different. Just some people like Suzette, it goes right through you. Certainly Ingar here, the spiritual presence, and other people don't know that they're not, don't have their eyes half mast when they're having dinner from not from the wine, they're not there. So we let go of all perception breath gets very deep, very real, and there's this wondrous feeling. It's lighter than air, it's happier than happy, kinder. It's true. And the takeaway for today is to start giving this to others, finding someone worthy. You're giving your mom the biggest hug you ever gave her in a gentle, beautiful, spiritual sense. Let yourself emit this emotion of openness, clarity, purity. Don't be afraid of anyone, right? They don't exist. They have no power. In the first few months, you'll be feeling this a lot, and you will be attacked by the devil himself in very direct, ugly ways at times. Mind confused. And that will be the greatest joy you ever had. I remember 2 weeks ago, I mentioned the first time the devil manifested in front of me completely. And I was like, it was so impressive. And it took 2 or 3 hours here. Yeah, I was handsome with somebody who was really evil, and a famous person. It was really fascinating. It was like, I was into it. It was like a movie, like the best movie I ever saw, by 1,000,000%. It was so fascinating, and that's what the devil did. It's fascinating. And everything taught me everything was dark side. I knew he messed with the wrong Marine, but it was like, it was fun. And then I understood that behind all this stuff is a force that projects it all. That stuff in the scriptures is all true. And the answer to it is not to fight it in any direct sense at all. Just sit here quietly. There was a night in my life I had a candle lit up at the sink in case I leave a place or another. And I'll put a couple names under a little piece of aluminum foil underneath there. And yeah, I can fight it. I can do deep possessions all day, every day. I can do psychotherapy for people just by listening to people being there, because I'm not here. I never react to them, to their thoughts. And I'm just there, and whatever's going on, okay, good. I might start, count back 100 to 90 and put them in a peaceful state, and then I will see. I see everything about them, and I'll ask them questions about such and such circumstance, whatever, and I'll speak very empowering words to them. I'll speak directly from God, which all you have the power to do now. You know you do it. Don't not do it. And you'll tell people how beautiful they are, how wonderful, and how it's not that. And you'll qualify each person that you see their worth, their kindness, their wisdom, that you're touched by. Do this all day. And it's never done stupidly. I have friends that seem kind and nice to people and give things away all the time, but if I don't do that, I'll blow up. And if you're the only person out of 10 or 100 that do that, then you have to do that. It doesn't matter if you give yourself away. I've certainly given myself away where I had no place to live. But it was the right thing. At the same time, I won't give anything to around 100 people and know it's decent, but they won't get anything. Okay? You won't get a little kiss of the air out of it, you know? But I won't come to battle with it. Walk through it like it's not there. Does that make sense? You're involved with the real God of eternity. You can do and you will do anything to overcome the world, like Jesus. But that means in perception, prayer, reflection, contemplation, meditation, these techniques. And you don't have to do this technique. I know it's a good doctor show, 60 years show at least, and it would sit there and sit meditate. But I love it because it would sit there 45 minutes and get up to 45 minutes. Like, well, the 45 minutes never existed to me, and I never had to sit on the cushion at all, but I was with people. We go to the Zen Center, and I met some really wonderful people. And so I finally understood what I had known all my life. One of the students was John Buckspace, Dr. John. He was the editor of the Poetry Journal, or some journal in the university. We'd walk around everybody. I was a little older than most of the students. And up in his room, I mentioned this before, the Zen priest forgot Dr. Show. Up on his wall, he had a statement of one of the 10 masters, and thousands of monks on hilltops everywhere. The wind blows through our mind. There's just one mind. It's just, when I was with the monks sitting, or all over the world in different places, friends in England, India, Russia, Middle East, certainly many people. And spiritual people are spiritual people. People around them might make it more religious and more to stand for their particular teacher, but that's not what any spiritual being wants. In fact, a spiritual being has no wants. They want to teach, they want to instruct, they want to give. Some of you might go into martial arts for different reasons. But when you give that, I mention that because most of the people here are involved in that. It doesn't matter if it's fine arts, or my friend Corinne, the great ballerina, but it's the same thing. You take yourself beyond yourself. It's almost as strong as a mother's love. When they say mother bear, her mother's little saint, 5'2" at most, and blonde, beautiful, and couldn't hurt a fly. All she did is live for 6 kids. One day there was a woman at a gas station on Randolph Street, Delaware. I know I mentioned it, it's funny. So all you minutes. And she thrown my older sister Joey to the ground. We were all little kids. So my mother went over to the gas station. She was one of those big tough ladies that could do it all that way. And aspect of it. And my mom just knocked her out. And it was around there for 10 years, the story. And it was just funny. In other words, the idea of a mom. So let's have that for all the people who we're here to live for, to love for, to care for, to inspire, to correct, to redirect, to teach, to love, to honor, and obey all those we find worthy. There are certain people they're gone. But they're not even here. We don't have to fight them. And in the beginning, the devil hit us with different impressions or suggestions and thought that we could do this or that, but let it go. And then when you're glad to find it's a being and you look at it in the eye, it'll be gone. I'm looking at the devil right now. Can't look at it. And it takes a while to get to that place. To take a while to get to that place. Be kind, be endearing, be decent, be true, be pure, be empowering, lift up all those you love, the greater ones. Thank you. Thank you, Suzette, my teacher, being here.